Over the past month, Turkey has been in the headlines a number of times for the wrong reasons. 3 weeks ago, Ankara airport was targeted by suicide bombers, which killed 41 people. More recently, the military tried to overthrow the government, which resulted in at least 232 deaths. I'm joined now by a member of the Northwest Turkish Association, Adrian Stores. Adrian works in Istanbul, where a lot of the trouble occurred during the uprising. Thank you very much for joining me, Adrian, on this very hot day. So first of all, tell me how you feel about the current situation in Turkey then.
Well, Katie, I'm pleased that you started the conversation off by asking me how I feel, because obviously most of the opinions I'm going to give is from my perspective. And the reason I think I can give a relatively informed, albeit based upon a small sample size opinion, is that yes, I've got a business in Istanbul, heavily integrated with a lot of the Turkish community within Manchester, and obviously married to a Turkish girl as well. So we've got Turkish family out there, and that gives us a fair insight to everything. I think rather than it being just purely myself giving opinions, when I heard that you wanted to invite me on here today, I went along and I bobbed into a few different places frequented by the Turkish community in the Northwest and got their opinions. And the good thing to say, even including going to Zico's Turkish Barbers yesterday, was the fact that there is a consensus. There's quite a consistent opinion. And to sum it up in one word, really, it's that they're saddened.
So the attacks on the airport is becoming all too frequent in Turkey. And do you think that there is a terrorism problem? Do you think there's a definite problem here in Turkey?
I think, Katie, I mean, from my perspective, I think terrorism now is a worldwide problem. It's probably in the same way that me and my son Kaya had to think long and hard about, did we go to watch England play in the Euros in Marseille? It is a worldwide problem. I mean, obviously, we look at things like Nice and Brussels and Istanbul recently. It doesn't help the fact that Turkey geographically is bordered by the likes of Syria, is bordered by the likes of Iraq. There are terrorist people who are proactive in the country, like the PKK, the Kurdish militant terrorism, but also ISIS. But if you take, it's actually Istanbul airport, it was actually Atatürk Havalimanı, this was the main international airport in Istanbul that was the subject of the bomb. And from what I hear so far at the moment, it seems like the three main protagonists were Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan and Russia. So again, it's a worldwide phenomenon, terrorism. Yeah.
So the attempted coup last week, was that expected?
Was it expected? It certainly wasn't expected by me. I was working away at home and I got a message through social media saying, "What's going on in Turkey, Adrian?" To which point I started logging on and finding out what actually was happening. I suppose the only reason you say that perhaps there isn't a surprise is because there's been 3 coups in my lifetime, 3 military coups in the country of Turkey. There's been 4 since 1960. And I think that sort of gives an indication really about the activities of the military and how coups can come about in that particular geographical region. But also the fact that there is a variation in terms of the politics and the feeling and the aspirations of different groups of people in the country. It does lead to a separate perspective on things, and so perhaps things like that will happen.
Yes, I agree. So today actually a 3-month state of emergency was declared, which allows the president to bypass any governmental laws. What does this mean to Turkey? So a few things are going to change over the 3 months. How will it affect people?
It's a good question, Katie. Once again, I only discovered that over breakfast this morning. As I said to my wife, because we're going to be heading off to Turkey soon on our annual holidays, it's certainly going to increase the powers of stop and search. As to what extent that is prevalent across the whole country or is more targeted around the urban areas, only time will tell. But there's a lot of change now post that coup. You'll have heard about circa 60,000 people have been taken in now. There's not just military, that is extended to the judicial system, into the teaching profession, and I think as of yesterday there was about 620 schools also that now have been focused on by the government to perhaps try and clamp down on this coup, or certainly in terms of people that might have been behind the coup.
Another one, just from your opinion, do you think that the current president is taking away from Atatürk's founding vision of peace and freedom for the country?
I think certainly, as I'd indicated, the groundswell of opinion from the circles that I mix in, and certainly from doing a little bit of research yesterday, the answer to that question would have to be yes. I think obviously the ruling party that was elected by democracy is AKP. But the opinion from a lot of people I speak to is that certainly, slowly but surely, there might have been erosion of some of the more freedom of speech, some of the more secular approaches that have been favoured in Turkey. They are being eroded, and I think there's an underlying fear by a lot of people we talk to that perhaps what might be the case is that ultimately, now the coup has been unsuccessful this time round, that President Recep Tayyip Erdogan will seek executive powers. If he gets executive powers, that allows him a lot more ability to make decisions and enforce legislation by himself. And I think once again that will undermine some of the principles that Ataturk stood for.
Okay, thank you so much for joining me, Adrian.